Hey, I'm Avalaura.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Black Leave America podcast, where we highlight holistic wellness, travel, mental health, and self-care through traveling outside of America to reconnect and rediscover who you are. It's time for us to leave any condition that disrupts our peace. Black Women Leave America opens your eyes and explores new ways of living, but more importantly, new ways of being. Because sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. Sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. This is Black Women Leave America podcast. And I'm really excited for our next guest, exploring a region of the world that we have not explored yet. So welcome, Miss Nicole, to Black Women Leave America. How are you today?
I am great, thank you. How about you, ladies?
Wonderful, wonderful. So just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Nicole Brewer, and I am currently based in the Middle East, small little country called Oman, which is near the Emirates, about a 5-hour drive outside of Dubai. And I've actually been living here in this region for 6 years now. Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, and prior to actually moving to Oman, I used to work in South Korea before that for a few years.
Okay.
I left America a decade ago, and here I am 10 years later, still gone. Wasn't part of my plan, truth be told, when I first left USA. I used to work in market research, and I was laid off from my job.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was in the market trying to find a new job, 5-6 months. Unemployment was getting ready to run out. I was like, okay, something has to give. Like I had never been unemployed for that long, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I came across this job ad online for teaching English in, East Asia and South Korea in particular. I was like, I can do that. I was at the point where I was willing to go anywhere.
You was gonna do anything.
I was gonna do anything. But I actually had some girlfriends who had taught abroad in Japan before, and I visited them. So it was in the back of my mind, like that could be a cool experience to have. But so I packed my bags, went to Korea, said I was going to go for a year, and I loved it. Then I renewed my contract, and I renewed it again. And I was in Korea for 3 years.
Wow.
And then after being in Korea, I was kind of like, oh, I'm ready for a different experience. And somehow happened upon Oman, a country I didn't even know where it was before I even saw the job ad. I just looked it up because I was looking up opportunities to work in the Middle East. So initially I went to Dubai or UAE, but I saw Oman and I was like, oh, it looks like a pretty cool place. So did my research, and 6 years later, I'm still here. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I just love how you all tell these stories. It's like, yes, I just packed my bags and I just left. Like, what type of preparation or what, what happened? I understand you were kind of at the end of the rope. Okay, you may need to make them coins, but what in you said, okay, yeah, I'm gonna just go to a foreign country. I don't know nothing about this, but I'm gonna just leave and go.
That's a good question. Looking back on it, I mean, it's pretty brave when I think about it now. In retrospect, I was like, oh, what the hell were you thinking? Like, what made you decide to go to Korea of all places after a year? But I think for me, I was fortunate because I like when I went to Japan to visit my girlfriends the year prior, actually, ironically.
Mm-hmm.
I went to visit. I had 3 girlfriends that were teaching in Japan at the same time.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, this is, that was an opportunity I had.
So you had exposure.
I had exposure, right? They all spoke Japanese. Granted, I didn't speak any Korean before going to Korea. But in that case, like having a base of girlfriends who had the experience before me, it helped a lot. Like I actually talked to my girlfriend, Lisa, quite a bit about her experience in Japan. Because initially, when I thought about going, I was looking at Japan, but then Korea just so happened to been a better fit. And then she had friends who taught in Korea that she introduced me to, so I spoke with them. Mm-hmm. I used social media, I did a lot of research because I used to work in market research. I'm all about, do as much research as I can on the internet. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was a group called Brothers and Sisters of South Korea. And that was a very helpful group. I did, reached out to people in that community before I even decided to take the offer, just to ask. I was like, where do you get your hair done? What do you do this? All these different questions that I had, I needed to know. So, social media is like, it's a blessing, like I know how finding a community of people who were already based in that place.
Okay.
So that helped ease my fear before I decided to break
Awesome.
the. Yeah.
I'm
And
so happy you said that. Social media is a blessing. So I work in digital
Supposed to
media,
be
so
well,
I'm
yeah,
like,
it's
yes,
a gift and a curse.
it is. It can be.
But
However, I'm so happy that you were able to like connect with people and build those relationships. That's awesome.
yeah.
so, like, what were some of the differences that you noticed living, in South Korea and now in Oman? And like, why'd you decide to stay?
Ooh. Okay, so yeah, it was a big. It's a huge difference. Truth be told, like living in East Asia compared to living in the Middle East, technically still Asia, but living in the Middle East or whatever. Like for me, I guess I'm an adaptable person. You
Okay.
definitely have to be someone that's easygoing and able to go with the flow to live this
Mhm.
lifestyle. I always tell
Okay.
people it's not for the faint of heart. Like living abroad is not an easy task. It's like I live in the Middle East and I have to cover, like right now I'm in my apartment, so it doesn't matter. But when I'm
Mhm.
outside, I have to cover and be
Yep.
respectful of the culture. And I value that. Like I understand their culture. I did my research before coming, and now being here, you assimilate to the culture. So
Mhm.
some people they don't feel comfortable doing it, then it's not the place for you. For me, I'm an easygoing person. So, it was definitely much different being in Korea versus being in Oman because the way I look at it, when I first went to Korea, I was in like my late 20s, like 28, give or
Okay.
take. And so I felt like Korea was a good stepping stone for someone
Okay.
moving abroad because it's a different culture, but it's like it's still very liberal. I was able to
Okay.
party like Korea. It's a party
It
culture.
is a
Like
party, yeah.
it's a party
Yeah.
culture, right? So it's like being in Korea in my 20s, like that was a good time for me. Now I'm a little more established, late 30s.
Mhm.
I came here in my mid 30s. Like it's a different experience now being in the Middle East at this point in my life. So I feel like, you know, it's easier. It was easier for me to adapt to this type of environment now in my life. But it's definitely different, like cultural. Like you hear to call a prayer 5 times a day here in the Middle East.
Yep.
You know, you have to be ready for like a business may just close from like 2 to 4 for
Yep.
like a call a
Especially during
siesta.
Ramadan.
It's not exactly Ramadan, like prayer. Like you have to just be prepared, and I'm definitely like more of a inshallah. Like everything is pretty laid back here, and I felt like I've become more like Omanis in that sense. I'm just like I'm so Omani now. I was like, yeah, inshallah. What will be will be. Like I say it now, and I was like, man, I was not that way before coming to the Middle East. Like I definitely like so it kind of grows on you, but like I said, that's not for everybody, but for me it has grown on me, so I appreciate that part
I
of the
love
culture.
that. And that kind of leads me to, I was just going to ask you this, like, what have you learned about yourself?
Good question. I have learned that I have way more patience than I realized compared to like when I lived in the States. Everything is go, go, go. And,
Yeah.
I still have some impatient, don't get me wrong, I still have some impatient parts, but I am more patient now in my personality of being in the Middle East and living here, particularly in Oman. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just stronger than I realized I was. Like being able, like I get people who message me all the time, just like, "You're so brave." Like I don't know if I could leave my family and only see them once a year. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. Like I never really felt like I was brave, but looking back on it,
Mm.
like, it wasn't an easy feat to do. So I do feel like I've kind of grown into the woman that I am. Being
Mm-hmm.
brave and confident to just go for opportunities.
So almost kind of like a rites of passage.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Hmm. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm like, I only see my family once a year anyway, so that's no difference.
I'm glad you said that. That's a valid point. I mean, that's the same way I feel because before I left, I was working in Chicago. No, from
Mm-hmm.
Detroit, but I was working in
Okay.
Chicago. And my family from Detroit, they had all, like my mom and my sisters, they're in Atlanta.
See?
So they were in Atlanta. I was in Chicago. I was lucky to see them for Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Once a year, 2 weeks of vacation working
Yep.
in the States. So I'm lucky if I get to see them over Christmas break. Now I'm a teacher abroad and I get 2 months of break. So I see my mom more now because when I come to the States, like I'm home for like a month and a half. Then I'll,
Okay.
I'll travel for a couple of weeks because, I'm a travel blogger too. So I love to travel. And that's one of the advantages of being abroad as well, like the opportunities of traveling the world that I've been able to do. So yeah.
Ooh, I want to hear more about that. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll hear from our sponsors and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Black Women Leave America. We're here talking to Nicole, and we just left talking about all the extensive travel and the 2-month vacation that you get. So, so I want to hear more about that. I want to hear more about in terms of how you travel around now that you have all this time off, and what is it like when you come back home to America now that you lived abroad for so long?
Ooh, very good question. I am pretty fortunate in the fact that like now living in the Middle East, um, I get 2 months of vacation in the summer. So what I typically do is like this past summer when I went home, I stopped in Morocco. I was in Morocco for my birthday for like a week. And then from
Nice.
Morocco, I flew back to the States to see my family, and I spent
Okay.
like 6 to 7 weeks back in the States. And so I usually try to break up my trips depending on, just my desire of travel. Sometimes I'll travel for a couple weeks, or I'll travel for a month. I'll go back home for a month. But being in Oman, we get a lot of holidays too. Like we'll get a 4-day weekend here or a 5-day weekend there. So when I get those holidays, I'll travel around the region, go to Bahrain or different places. So it's a combination of my summer breaks and
Mm-hmm.
the other time that I have. When it comes to my travel. Yeah, I'm sorry. What was the other part of the question?
So yeah, so what are some of the differences you've noticed? Because now you've been living abroad for, like you said, about 10 years. So
Yeah.
like, what do you notice? What do you experience when you come back to staying in America with your family?
Right. Sorry, it's after midnight here too, so I was just like, my mind was kind of. I was like, I know it was the second part to that question, but I kind of forget. But yes, that is a fact. When I come home, it's so funny because we kind of call it, reverse culture shock. After being
Mm,
gone for so long, when I come back to the States, it's like, ooh, wait a minute. I've gotten used to being able to like leave my door unlocked, or like different things. Like you don't have to deal, like crime is like non-existent. And I was fortunate to live in Korea and Oman, both very safe countries. People are like, oh, the
mm-hmm.
Middle East is safe. I'm like, yes, actually, it's very safe where I live in Oman. So it's like reverse culture shock when I come back home and just like, oh, I have to just put my like big city girl, like, okay, put my face back on. You know what I mean? It's just certain things that you have to think about that I kind of let my guard down more so when I'm abroad than when I'm back home. So that's
Interesting.
the biggest thing for me. It's like, yeah, certain things that I just really don't worry about over here. Let's say, okay, Nicole, get it together. You're back home. You're back on the east side of Detroit, or you're back on, in Atlanta. So
That's pretty interesting. That,
It is.
I think for a lot of us, we think that if we go outside of the country, it's going to be unsafe for us to be outside of the country. But from what I'm hearing from you, it's actually safer and you get to actually decompress a little bit. Is I'm hearing
yeah.
that correct? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the thing. I mean, obviously that's not the case everywhere, but I've been fortunate enough to choose like really safe locations. And again, that was back to my research and making sure that I was going to a good location, but yeah, and that's the thing. Like when I travel, I realize it's like wherever I went to Ghana earlier this year. Earlier, this was January now. Last year, a year ago, actually, it was January of last year. But I went to Ghana and, going to different places. Okay, yeah, I'm back in a big city. Like you do have to just kind of move it depending on where you are and what time. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I like that because Jessica, you're right. The narrative is, even though we know there's differences depending on what country you're in, but the narrative is kind of, regardless of what country you go to, it is not really safe outside of America.
Mm.
And so it's so interesting to say you like, oh, I can leave my doors unlocked here and I'm not even worried about it. I can be real laid back, inshallah, whatever happens, happens, God willing, whatever. And we're here, everything is, ooh, it's got to happen. If it don't work out, what about this and what about that? You got to plan. And you just sound real laid back and chilling and just, I'm just doing my thing.
That is so true. Life is good. And that's the thing, and it's funny because it's like I'm a little bit of both. I'm a planner. Like I'm a type of person like if I'm going traveling somewhere, I'm going to have an itinerary. Like I do have that in me. I'm American, right? It's like I'm going to be a planner, but I realize that I have let my guard down more since living abroad, and more so living in a mind where it's really safe, and everything is just so chill here. Like you can't help but to rub off on you after being here for so long.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is we're worried and concerned about going outside of America being not safe, but really we're not safe in America. It's
Yeah, you said it, girl. You said it. I mean,
crazy.
Bringing that up, I'm glad we're on this topic because, I know it's been all over the news. Like, I was in Muscat earlier today. I spent the night over there and then came back to my city. And I turned the TV on and I'm seeing all the news headlines about, Mr. Trump and all of the happenings in Iran. And it's just like, I was like, here we go. Like, the first thing I already knew, I was like, everybody's going to start messaging me because I'm in the Middle East. And, the Middle East it's one country, right? It's just one big place. Like, everybody thinks
exactly. It's not different countries.
Nope. Exactly. That's what I'm getting. I'm just like, I'm good. Like, I'm still, granted, yes, I live in the Middle East. Don't get me wrong. And I literally wrote a Facebook post before our call. I was like, I'm a Black girl from Detroit. Used to live on the south side of Chicago. Like, when have I not had a target on my back? You know what I mean? So it's like, people are like, oh, you're Middle East, be careful. I'm like, oh, mine is the Switzerland of the Middle East. Like, this is one of the safest countries in the world. People don't realize that. I was like, we're good, I was like, of course, I'm going to watch my back. But I won't. When have I not watched my back? So.
And that's the thing. It's like that level of stress that you have in America. You're actually you're taking that off when you get outside of America, but then you're still like, you're able to watch yourself, but then also have that sense of peace inside. So it's like, it's crazy. Like, having these conversations, our last couple of episodes have been like really eye-opening to the fact of how much stress America puts on us and how much we feel it. Not only, we feel it internally as well as external. Like, it's just really affecting our mind and our bodies, and it's making us sick, literally. And then you go outside of America and you got, hey, we chill. Like, what? It's crazy.
It's so true. I agree with that. Like, I'm like sitting here talking to you guys, when I look straight ahead, like I did a vision board. It's 2020 where I did my vision board for the year. I'm a firm believer of like law of attraction and putting, positive energy out there. And I'm just like telling people, I was like, I don't want those. Don't put that negative energy on me. I was like, I'm good. Like, please don't speak that into my existence. That's what I have to tell people. Like, I'm not accepting that.
I mean, what's interesting, like when you were talking, I thought of two things. One, when you talk, well, Jessica said it, we're really not safe here. But I remember when I was, I think I was in India, and I remember seeing there are literally thousands of people everywhere. And I remember looking at the sea of people and realizing that there were absolutely no cops. None. And I remember thinking that, like, if I was in America and I'm just driving, there's going to be a cop here, half, not even half. I mean, we're talking about maybe a third of the amount of people. India is ridiculous. There's literally a sea of people and there are no cops. Nothing is happening. Nothing is wrong. Everybody's just going about their business. And so it made me kind of think back to that, how there's just no worries, no problems. But here you got half the amount of people and you got more cops and you got all these issues and all this crime and all this drama.
Oh, that's the truth. That is the truth right there.
And it's not something that I think we even realize because we're just used to it. Like, it's just a part of our everyday. We're
living it.
Used to it. We don't even know that there's another way.
Yeah. So we're realizing the uncomfortability in the comfortability. It's totally eye-opening and awakening. But I do want to ask you a question around your work, since you do work in this environment. And in America, the work environments, we all know, are very stressful. And, you have different situations and things that come up. So what are some of the things that you deal with, or do you deal with anything in your work environment at your workplace?
That's a good question. Well, I wouldn't say there's like no stress, or you deal with the everyday. I mean, I'm a teacher, so I'm working at a college age student. I'm grateful for that. Like, my students are between 18, 21, 22. And it's definitely a different experience, like teaching here compared to like my sister who's a teacher in the States. Like I know we are having two totally different experiences. Me being here in the Middle East and like having these like nonchalant, like laid back kids who are just like, oh yeah, hopefully I'm a fast teacher. But you know, like they're so chill. So it's just like, you know, I don't really, you know, you have behavioral issues every blue moon. You know, it's very rare. Like for the most part, they're here to do a job. Some of them do it well, some of them don't. Some of them, you know, work hard, some don't. But I don't have back talk. I don't get attitude. Like I just, you know, I'm the cool teacher. You know what I mean? It's just like we got a good rapport. And even with my colleagues, like I don't feel like there's anything that I've had to deal with regarding stress in that capacity. Like it's less. We don't have parent teacher hours or things like that. Like the things that you have to deal with being a teacher in the States compared to being abroad is totally different. At least here in Oman, I would say that more laid back in that capacity. But yeah, I hate to come off like everything is just like so chill.
She was like, I'm good.
I'm good. It's true though. It's like I really am good because I can over here.
You know when somebody trying to think of a problem but they can't? She like, I can't even think of nothing.
I was over here just like, wow, this is kind of crazy right now. Like thinking about it, I really am good. You know, so
yeah, and it's crazy that she's just now coming to that realization because she's lived in it for so long. It's like,
right.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what? This is different.
It's just right. It's different.
Yeah. Well, so what I want to know is, how do you get a teaching job abroad, and do you recommend other people do it? Like how much it pay? Like I want to know all that stuff.
Yes, I absolutely recommend it. It's so funny because I've been getting inbox messages like, you know, obviously I'm a travel blogger as well, so I write about my experience.
Okay.
And so I've been getting people reaching out to me like crazy. Just in the past couple of weeks, I had like 2 or 3 people reach out to me about job opportunities online, and like people I never met. I was just like, whoa, what's happening? Like right now, it's like a hot spot. Like people are interested in this country. And so I'm like, yeah, come. Like everyone, like I'm all about that life. Like actually, speaking of how they can get into this, it's been 2 years now. I wrote a book, an ebook. It's called A Guide to Land in an English Teaching Job Abroad. You know, because I was getting so many questions about how did you get into teaching abroad, and you know, where should I go? And so I was like, let me answer these questions in a book. Let me go ahead and just write the knowledge. And you know, I interviewed other teachers living abroad in different countries. And question about pay scales and all that stuff. Like, yeah, I compiled all of that into my book. So I talk about like, there's something called like a TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language certificate. I did and talked about the different TEFL programs, and I interviewed people about their experiences. So yeah, I basically I wrote the book on it, you know. So because I would get so many questions about it, but I highly recommend it. Like I said, one of the advice I do give people is about like South Korea. I feel like it was a good starting point for me, like East Asia. It's easier starting out to get an opportunity when China is like huge. So there's a ton of opportunities in China. There's opportunities in South Korea. It's like the average person is not going to get their first teaching job abroad in the Middle East unless you have a lot of experience teaching, you know, back in the States, to have a PhD or a master's in education or what have you. So it just depends on qualifications and experience, just like any other job. But for people starting out, I mean, yeah, check out the book, A Guide to Land in an English Teaching Job Abroad.
No, I appreciate it because I already knew people gonna be watching this like, wait, hold on, how does that happen? So thank you for sharing that, and that makes sense. I could definitely see that in these
you
bigger
need to turn them DMs
countries.
into.
I mean, listen, I mean, I'm like 2 months vacation, and she not stressed out at her job teaching these bad baby kids. Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's the funny part. Actually, recently, my agency, they were doing a lot of hiring. Like some of the teachers who were at my college last year had to leave because like they changed one of the qualifications where you have to be a native English speaker. So you have to be from the States or Canada or, you know, New Zealand, South Africa. But we had a lot of teachers at my college who were not native speakers who still had the qualification. So it was a weird, like this semester, I take that back about no stress. No, this semester was a little bit stressful because a lot of us had extra teaching hours, but truth be told, it still wasn't like, I survived. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it wasn't strenuous,
It
like,
wasn't strenuous.
yeah, stress. And there's a reason why those baby kids, are baby kids. It's because of those levels of stress in America and those things that are
They're
happening
internalizing.
to the point of policing.
Yeah, they're internalizing
When you
it.
move to those areas where they aren't policing as much as they police us here, because we got the level of policing that they're trained policemen, but then we also have that other layer of policing who ain't policemen at all, but think they're supposed to be policing. So we have all of those different layers that we're fighting through, and those kids are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you're in a different area, you don't have to deal with a lot of that. So this, man, I'm telling you, this
Jessica, like, I'm about to leave. Jessica,
I
like,
know.
I can see it on her face. She like, where can I go?
Where can I go? You're like, oh, look, because I have babies, I have. So, and my thing for them, my thing for them is always, how do I keep their levels of stress? Because we know from studies and research that the levels of stress that our kids, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, those levels of stress that your kids are going through and that they experience when they're younger lead to how long their lifespan is. And I want my kids to live for as long as possible. I do not want them to have levels of stress to where they are dying early or having heart attacks at 30 and 40 years old because of the level of stress that they are carrying. Yeah. So for me, it really truthfully is an eye opener of, maybe we need to have, me and my husband going to sit down and have this conversation of, bruh.
Now, in Oman, like, how are your living expenses? Because I don't know that much about quality of life. I know it's a Muslim country, but how are your living expenses?
It's pretty good. Like, I'll say, for example, looking at my apartment, I am staying in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. And and when you're teaching, like, you either can choose, well, depending on the agency, you can choose the option to have the apartment, or you can choose the option just to take the stipend, the monthly stipend.
Okay.
So a lot of people, they choose the stipend. For me, I like the convenience. So it's like my apartment, I came here, it was fully furnished. Like, I just moved right in, and I've been here 5 years. Like, easy peasy, across the road from my college. So like, I took the, yeah, exactly. So my apartment, it's about 750 USD a month. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, massive. Like, I mean,
add another one to that, okay? That's easy. 1,750, 2,000.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, yeah, cost of living. I mean, it's funny because we were having a conversation about that in one social media recently. And I was just like, it's comparable to the States. When you put it like that, I was like, no, I guess it's cheaper. But
where are you having these conversations online too? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Facebook primarily. I am on Instagram, but primarily I'm very active on Facebook. My community, I have a lot of expats. And, actually, speaking of that, my community with my travel blog site, I love the Globetrot. I have a travel group as well on Facebook. So sometimes people post questions in there, but on my personal page and sometimes in the travel group.
Okay. So people just know and they just asking you questions. Yeah. Because people are curious. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Girl, you need to turn that into a group coaching call, charge $10 or something for it. Like,
you say $10. Right. She basically saying you don't need no money.
You need to monetize. No, I'm saying you need to monetize it. Like, if all these questions
you don't
coming,
need the kind of money we need over here. So
that's very true. That's very true. However, if we're talking about generational wealth,
there it is. Right, girl. Looking up this vision board over here, I was like, I'm trying to retire early. I need several streams of income. I was like, yes, I got it. I was like, what else? I was like, monetization. I'm all about that too.
So do you ever plan on coming back?
Good question. At the moment, I'm going to be honest. I don't see it for myself. I mean, the thing about it is funny, like, as much as I miss my family and my friends, I don't miss living in the U.S. Wow. Like, I'm grateful I can come home, I can see the people that I need to see and visit. If I get this generational wealth, I can afford to come back whenever I want. Like, that's my end game, is just like, I want to retire abroad. Like, that's really my plan. So yeah, I'll come back to the States to visit. You know, and if there was a reason, like let's say if my mom needed me, like if there was a reason that I had to come back to the States, I would do it. But my vision, my game plan is to retire abroad. I love this lifestyle.
Wow.
Well, that is amazing. Do you have any more questions?
I mean, you kind of answered it, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Like, would you recommend that other Black women leave America?
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend that Black women, you know, we're not fearful at all. You know, like for the not fearful, but the average Black woman, we don't have fear, right? So like me living abroad and having this experience, like that has like gone multiplied tenfold. You know, like looking at different opportunities and trying to grow my business with my blog and my website and things like that. Like I highly recommend having this opportunity to travel, live abroad, and learn a lot about yourself.
Okay. And like, how's your social life and your dating life?
Ooh, girl.
Because I'm like, I know you're in a Muslim country, so.
Yeah, that's a whole nother ballgame right there. It's been a challenge. You know, I'm not going to say I haven't dated. Like I have dated. I don't advise dating locals because, like you said, it's a Muslim country. For me, I've dated primarily other expats. You know, it's so funny. It's like literally as I came back to my, it's funny. As I came back to my apartment, like where I live, it's like a hotel apartment, right? So I came back to the lobby, you know, coming back from Muscat before this interview, and like sitting in my lobby was like several like football players, like was football soccer players. They were just sitting in the lobby, and I was like, oh, what's happening? So I'm walking up, and then like two of the guys, they like, I was talking to the guy at the front desk, and they introduced themselves to me, and I was just like, what is my life? Like, how does this happen? You know, like that's not an average day, but today it just happened. So I was like, something's in the universe. But you know, there's opportunities out there. I'll say that.
I mean, do you want to get married and have children and do all of that?
Actually, I'm a very non-traditional person, and I think for me that's a reason why this lifestyle has been probably easier for me. I have never been like a white picket fence. I can't wait to have two. I don't have any kids. I've never been married, and that has never been like my goal in life. I was like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, if it happens, it happens. As far as getting married, I don't want to have kids. So, you know, and truth be told, like that has been a barrier in dating for me because some people want kids, and I'm like, okay, red flag. We're not.
Child, you in a Muslim
so, you know,
country.
but I deal with that being abroad, and I deal with that being in the States. Like that was always an issue for me.
That's true.
But my views have changed. Like I'm like, okay, if I meet someone who just knocks my socks off, I'm open to being married.
Okay.
And that used to feel that way in the past, but yeah, the kids thing, that's not negotiable. So, yeah.
Wow, interesting. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, I do have one more question. What are some steps that someone should take, a woman should take if she's looking to leave America? What would you suggest they start, you know, what's step 1, step 2, step 3?
Step 1 is definitely research. Like, you know, joining different communities online, asking questions, like using social media to your advantage. Like I said, my travel group, I love to go try people ask questions there. There's tons of communities online, reading books, you know, but research is the key, like online or via books. That's the biggest thing. But then after that, once you choose a place, you know, start applying and networking with people in that particular location. And, you know, write down your game plan, like making sure if you decide to leave, when you do decide to leave the country, that you have your steps in place. You're thinking about how you're going to still pay bills back home, if you still got a mortgage or whatever you're dealing with, like just writing everything down, having your game plan ready, because, you know, preparation is key.
So what did you do? Because I know you said you had originally had planned to leave for a year. So did you like get rid of, were you in a house, apartment? Did you get rid of everything, sell everything? Like what did you do?
Oh, girl. Yeah, that, looking back on it, it was crazy. Like I thought I was literally thought I was going to leave for a year. I had a condo in Chicago when I left. Yeah, and that was the thing. It was like, I came to the point where I'm not working. It was like, okay, I got to still pay a mortgage. So I had someone move in to the place. and that fell through. You know, that person ended up losing their job. So that was a whole nother ball game of things to deal with. But like when I left, I had to put things in storage, and then after like 2 years of paying storage fees, you're not coming back. Like I remember like one summer I went back, and I literally had to like pack up all the stuff in storage, sell it or donate it, and it was freeing. It was so freeing because some of that stuff I'm looking like, I'm not going to ever wear this again. Like, why are you holding on to these things? It was so freeing to like close my storage unit. And it's a good thing I did, because here it is a decade later. Could you imagine me paying on that for 10 years? But yeah, but that was, I had a place and that fell through. And that was a whole nother gamut of things to deal with. But, you know, such is life. You know.
Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So if last question here, if someone is looking at wanting to teach abroad, what would you tell them to do first, and where should they start?
Depending on that person's experience, like for me, I didn't have any teaching experience before moving abroad. So if they're in the same boat as me, like, you know, that's why I wrote the book, you know, A Guide to Landing an English Teaching Job Abroad. Like, you know, finding resources like that, interviewing people, trying to do as much research as you can, looking at the qualifications that you may need, or what type of TEFL program or TESOL program you can look into. Like, that's really the base, the main starting point for being able to teach English abroad, is having that type of certificate and comparing programs. But really, like, research and networking are the keys to really get into this lifestyle.
Well, thank you so much. Tell everyone where they can find you, and of course, download the book.
Okay, great. They can find me, my travel site and blog. It's called I Love the Globetrot, and it's ILUV, the number 2 in Globetrot. And so they can follow on Facebook and on Instagram, and also have the travel group by the same name on Facebook, I Love the Globetrot. And then the book is available on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on with us and sharing your story with us, Nicole. If you guys are listening and you have left America, or you're thinking about leaving America, if you have questions, feel free to visit our website at blackwomenleaveamerica.com. We definitely want to hear your story if you've left America. But if you have any questions, need to connect with any guests, buy merchandise, because we also have shirts as well as mugs, all that good stuff, and learn more about leaving America's Avalaura will have a retreat coming up really soon. So you definitely want to make sure that you're getting on our newsletter list, you're joining our Facebook group, all that good stuff, and stay in contact with us. Subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And we are out. Black Women Leave America. Peace.
Bye.